don't put in space.
Hello, fellas. You hear me? Cool. I see the screen now with the clock.
Tell me what you guys are smoking.
Yeah. Very sure. Thing's a piece of shit.
Edition. What's up, Mr. Todd?
Hey, what's going on, Phil? Feels like the weekend already.
It's close.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Ready for it.
It's cold as fuck out there.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I know you're available this weekend.
Yeah, well, so are you, brother. So are you, man. So there's our delayed laugh. There's our delayed laugh. Well, guys, tonight you've tuned in for a good one because what we're going to do is dive a little deeper tonight in general into the world of cannabis consumption lounges. These are public lounges where people go and they consume cannabis. And so we've got a friend of ours. He's also the CEO and of High Rollers Dispensary and Lounge in Atlantic City. He is also the lead sponsor for the Canologist. This is a place where we do the Canologist. So let's, without waiting any further, let's welcome to the show Jon Cohn, CEO, High Rollers. Welcome to the show, Jon. Looks like John's frozen. Well, why don't you come back to us and maybe Jon will reconnect there in a second. So, yeah. Don't you love live? So yeah. I'll be able to see. I'm going to send a text to him right now for him to log back in.
Well, you know, the good part about this is cold right now. It's the winter, but it's January, right? Almost the middle of January. Actually, it's the middle of January. So in a couple of months, the weather will be breaking, starting to get warm, and be plenty of action in Atlantic City.
Yeah, but there's been a ton of stuff going on in Atlantic City in the spring and the summer. Sure. But for now, there's more winter left to go.
Yeah.
And there's some. I think there's snow on the way. We're getting some snow too. All right, we got Jon back. All right, so let's bring Jon in. Jon, welcome to the show. What's up, brother? We lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I froze. How are you guys doing?
You know, because of the cold, though. No, I mean, listen, we have a very secure satellite connection, Jon. So I don't know what could have happened to that. I couldn't know what could possibly happen to our secure satellite connection.
No worries, man.
All right.
Wonderful world we live in, right?
I know, man.
How
So welcome. We're good, man. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well.
I missed you at the last Canologist filming at the beautiful bar.
Yeah, I was out of town. I heard it went well, though.
It did, and we did a special Christmas and a special New Year's episode. There's some additional episodes. There's one actually coming out tomorrow night, guys. 7 o'clock. Canologist. Tune in for that. Give Steve-O a like, subscribe, and follow. But tonight, Jon, I appreciate you joining us because there's just a lot of talk and activity and conversation and even in some cases news about what's going on in the world of consumption lounges. I know that this is something that's near and dear to you. You've been, I would say knee deep, but I think you're a little deeper than knee deep. And so what we want to know is, give us an idea of, let's start from the very beginning. Tell us what's going on with consumption lounges. If people don't know, if this is your first time hearing about it, there are certain states that have allowed this. Yours is one of them, and you are one of the first in the state to do that. So tell us a little bit about what's going on with High Rollers.
Sure. Yeah. So to that point,
oh, yeah, he froze up again. Okay. All right, we'll bring it back to us here for a second here, Jeff. We'll figure that out. I'm sure he'll try to jump back and jump on with us. Yeah. Go ahead, Todd.
And when he does, we'll get him to explain exactly what a consumption lounge is. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we could tell you, but it was
you have your own idea, right? Yeah.
So. All right, John's back. Hey, what's up, Jon? So go ahead, as you were saying.
Yeah, so to your point, it's differently implemented in different states. So we're in New Jersey. It's a very new program in New Jersey. It came out in early July, or I should say, we were allowed to open in early July. We were ready to open 16 months earlier. So, like any new program, I think the regulatory bodies have to kind of figure their way out. and they're starting to here. Jersey is a bit unique in that it's really highly restrictive in the sense that it's just cannabis. So we can't serve water, we can't serve beverages, no food, certainly no tobacco, and no alcohol. And that's the alcohol is pretty standard across all states. The mix, especially for beginners, it can be fairly risky. But really what it does is it allows people to come and socially consume with other people in a public environment. Our lounge is fairly upscale. It's really a very beautiful space. We've recently added a few TV screens so that we can show like public domain movies, certain licensed watch events, things like that. We have board games and actually some cannabis games that people can play while they're there. As you know, when I mentioned we can't serve food or beverage, we are allowed to have it delivered, or you can bring in your own. And that's what made the Canologist work real well, is that the store does provide, or we sell cannabis-infused drink mixers. So if you bring in your own beverages, or you want to come in and sponsor an event, you can have your own parties there. You can have full-scale events with food and with non-alcoholic beverages. It's just something that we can't mix as a lounge.
But they can do it like so when you have it catered, John. So that's it. I mean, if somebody's renting that out and they want to have a party, the rules are different for that type of scenario, right? Meaning that you can have food and you can have drink because it's a private event.
It's true, and it's not so much that it's different. It's just that it's catered by an outside party, as opposed to High Rollers providing the catering. So even if you didn't rent it out and you wanted to bring 20 people or yourself, you can order pizza, you can order whatever you like to the lounge. You can bring in, I said whatever you like. You still can't bring alcohol or tobacco in, but otherwise, food and beverage is fine as long as we're not considered a restaurant or a food service provider. That's really the cutoff. So to that end, we are looking at opening a cafe adjacent to the lounge, and that way, finger foods, chili, certainly coffee, high-end coffee, and beverages, soda, we'd be able to bring in. But it's frankly, being in Atlantic City where we're located, especially in the summertime, it's really kind of critical that we are allowed, or that we're able to provide water to our patrons. We did have a couple of incidents. It's, as I said, we're early. Lounges have been open in California and Nevada for a number of years. And as I was talking to some of the owners out there, they said it got to a point where they could tell you how good of a month it was by the number of ambulance calls they would get. And a big part of that problem is dehydration and people needing to consume water. Yeah, exactly right. So being in Atlantic City.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, we have people that go to the beach and they'll spend the day on the beach. They may or may not consume alcohol while out there. And then they'll come into the lounge for, an innocent dab hit or an innocent gravity bong hit. And all of a sudden they're on the floor. And so safety is something that we're learning more and more about. Yeah, for sure. But it really is nice. To us, it's like a foray really into cannabis and hospitality. That true mix, can exist. And with more and more people, opting to either consume less alcohol or not consume alcohol, it really gives people an alternative to go out and socialize and enjoy cannabis with others.
Absolutely, and that's really where this whole conversation stems from. It stems from the fact that cannabis is legal in how many states at this point, but there's very, very, very few places that you're legally allowed to consume it. Right. So, I think it's important for that reason. I think it's also important in terms of mainstreaming this. And so when we do a show like The Canologist, what we're really doing, in essence, is showing you what could be if the rules come around to having, a high-end cannabis bar where they're serving these drinks like the kind that Steve puts together. And I think, that's what the market really kind of wants. I think the market is needing that because we see this proliferation of people moving away from alcohol and saying, hey, let's drink the hemp drinks. And so, and it's the hottest category. I don't need to tell you that drinks are as hot can be. And so You know, why don't, and so that's kind of my thoughts a little bit on it, but why don't you tell us about the different rules? So you mentioned California, you mentioned Nevada. You know, you guys are going to see tonight on the late night show that we've got some film and some B-roll of what some of these places look like and the kind of the look, the feel, the environment. But one stands out in particular in my mind where it's a restaurant in essence with a dispensary downstairs, and they've got a full menu upstairs, and you can basically bring anything you want from downstairs at the dispensary up with you, and then once you're there, you can get whatever you want. And I do believe, I do believe in that case that there's cannabis cocktails or mocktails in that case available. So, what are some of the structural differences between these states, and what do you think needs to happen in terms of getting alignment?
Well, I mean, I think you hit it on the head. I can tell you that Maryland, they don't have a program yet, although I was involved in some early discussions, and they were leaning toward doing them in restaurants specifically. Because, again, it's, you know, cannabis is cannabis. It's not necessarily, you know, some people just like to consume and hang and do so while doing nothing else. But, you know, more and more it's becoming part of mainstream life, and people like to do other things while they're consuming. So, you know, so to your point, Nevada, I was at one lounge, and it was Nubu, where they have an indoor and an outdoor section. And it's really a very large, it was like 25, 30,000 square feet, I think, if not more. And the upstairs is a very large lounge. You can order food, you can bring in food. Outside, they do have mocktails, and they serve them. I believe they do it inside too, but outside they'll have big bands and big events. It's really a very nice, I think a little bit more mature and more advanced in terms of the hospitality blend. In New Jersey, like I said, it is very restrictive. You're allowed to have either an indoor or an outdoor lounge, but you can't have both. And if you have multiple dispensaries, you're only allowed one lounge. So you kind of have to pick your poison there. You know, outdoor is really nice, but being in New Jersey, it's 3-4 months of the year that it's really popular. So we opted for indoor. If you have an indoor lounge, it has to be accessible through the dispensary and only through the dispensary. So you can't have a separate entrance. Outdoor lounges can be segregated. You're not required direct entry, but the rules are still the same with respect to food and beverage in New Jersey. To your question, I think, you know, for me, it's a no-brainer that beverages should absolutely be allowed. You know, I don't think alcohol necessarily in an early market like this, mixing them, you know, can be dangerous if you're not a really educated and advanced consumer. We have seen a lot of negative impacts, and so that part kind of makes a lot of sense to me. But the lack of food and beverage is really prohibitive, both from a customer enjoyment perspective, but also from a business model perspective. We have a lot of very high-end glassware that we'll rent to people, student glass bongs that, you know, list for over $500, high-end dab rigs. So it's a great environment for people to come in and try devices before they, you know, necessarily go buy them and spend a lot of money without trying them.
Yep.
But, you know, that's not, it's really more of a service. It's not so much to make money rather than recoup the investment on the glassware. So the business model is really very challenging, and it becomes more of a loss leader in New Jersey than it is a revenue generator at this point. The one thing we do quite a bit of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. Are the customers allowed to bring their own apparatus?
Not bongs per se, papers, bowls. You know, we don't stop people, but it's almost equivalent to going to a bar and bringing your own alcohol, right? You know, your own. It's kind of like our product, right?
Well, it'd be like bringing your own mug to the bar is what it would be like, right? Well, what can we?
Correct. Which was really.
If Todd comes down and tries it, then we can see how the staff responds to him if he comes in with a big ass bong.
It'll be a brand new piece.
As long as you buy it at High Rollers. No, we have had people bring glassware, and we don't. You know, it's not something that's strongly restricted. We just don't encourage it. Bring your own cannabis unless you're a medical.
Yeah, there's no need. At your lounge, you have very beautiful pieces. Everything is very nice and classy and good. So there's really no need. So just.
And I think, like John, I think I think you kind of hit it on the head when you talk about people are wanting an experience. They want something more. Like, yeah, they might just want to go sit and smoke, but more times out of not, they want
Socialize.
the same experience that you would have at a bar. You want to be able to talk to other people. Maybe you want to play darts, or maybe you want to, music or pool or whatever,
Yeah,
that
you're relaxing, socializing.
activities and so
Yeah.
it would seem to me that the closer we get to that experience, right, then the closer we are to the mainstreaming of this, kind of being able to be in a lot more places. What do you think, do you think New Jersey is going to be like headstrong like this forever, or do you see that as time goes on, you see a willingness to adapt, or no? I mean, they don't let you serve water right
Well,
now, so it's hard to imagine.
it is. And, we're very hopeful, and we really thought that as things did matriculate, it would loosen up. But the way most of these programs are set up, really across the U.S., is that there's law and then there's regulations, right? So the law is the act or the bill done by legislators, politicians, and then they appoint a party. In this case, the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission. They create the regulations and oversee it. So it really becomes a question of where that restriction exists. And in New Jersey, it exists in the law and regulations. So making a change is very, very challenging. It's just the regulations. It would really be up to the CRC to make the change. They're somewhat tied. And from my understanding, it was a lot of restaurant lobbyists early on that were really pushing against it. So while we are extremely hopeful, it's just hope at this point. There's really nothing on the scene to help. It's quite a dichotomy too, because people rent bars out all the time. And they have cannabis consumption events, private events in a bar. And obviously they're serving food, beverages, and alcohol in those bars with cannabis. If you go to Joe Canal's liquor stores, you mentioned the hemp-derived beverages. You can buy hemp THC beverages and you can buy alcohol in the same aisle. And it does seem to be quite, capricious for them to limit the lounges to not allow it, especially when they're safety issues.
Are you saying that a regular bar that serves alcohol can have a private event and they can smoke there in Jersey?
Well, it's a gray area in the law, frankly, and I think it really comes down to who's going to be the jurisdiction, or who's the body that oversees it. So I can tell you in Atlantic City there are a couple of bars that do it all the time. And they just claim it's a private event. They sell tickets, and they end up being large consumption events. So it's just not an even playing field, which makes it very challenging. Because listen, we're paying licensing fees, we're paying taxes. It's unlike what bars are doing. So
that's kind of tough.
I mean, the fact is, when you and I had these conversations about this, often enough, the word gray area comes up over and over and over and over again, because there's so much gray area. And I guess that becomes frustrating, and you're trying to run a business and you're trying to run the business according to the law, and gray area doesn't help.
True, especially when it's not equitable across how it's enforced, with different businesses. So it makes an uphill battle even steeper. But it's great to be driving and innovating in this. With the bruises that you get, it's still intriguing.
Yeah. So
one thing that does make our lounge.
No, go ahead.
There's a little lag. I apologize. I was going to say, one thing that makes our lounge unique is that we're in the Claridge Hotel. So we've got, 504 rooms, and we can work an all-inclusive cannabis experience. The Claridge has agreed to start floor by floor. So the 8th floor is now consumption friendly. So we could do bookings where you can have a party down, you can bachelor party, bachelorette parties, and book the rooms, and we can deliver the cannabis to the rooms. And obviously, if you're in your own hotel room, it's up to you what you'd like to do, and it's all private. So there are some advantages, with our location specifically, but it's not something that's reflective of the whole state.
Yeah, we'll put the word out. That,
Yeah,
that
I
sounds
mean,
like a fabulous occasion.
yeah, I mean, listen, I mean that to me that is a step towards mainstreaming because they don't like you smoking in the rooms no
Right.
matter how you cut it, like right.
Right.
So to be able to have a floor dedicated to rooms that will allow smoking and then be adjacent or attached to the dispensary and they'll deliver to the room, I mean that's progress,
That's
man.
fabulous.
That's progress.
It really is. It really is. As the other thing I should mention that I did is we're moving more into normal programming like you'd have at a bar. So we have karaoke there Tuesday night. We actually have an open mic comedy night tonight. So we've been doing an awful lot of things ranging from comedy, karaoke, live bands, smaller acoustic acts. We're looking at things like puff and paint, where you can come in and paint while you're consuming. So really trying to get a lot of activities going that will bring people in for a variety of events. I've even heard scrapbooking is something that we brought up last week. So
How'd
we may
that
give
go?
that a shot.
Scrapbooking. Todd does a lot of scrapbooking. I'm just curious.
Does he? Yeah, we haven't done it yet. It just got brought up as an idea last week, so I wouldn't even know where to start. To be very, I'll reach out to Todd though.
Well, listen, we'd love to come down and do a late night green one night. I know you and I have talked about that, so maybe we can put that together. But that might be a fun activity to do and do a live show from there one night.
Absolutely, we'd love to have you guys.
That would be fun. Before we take a commercial, John, real quick. So, what are some of the safety considerations that you have to? I mean, I'm sure that there's safety considerations, but there's also training for the people. You could have you obviously could have a situation, that comes out of the blue. How do you handle those kind of things?
Well, it really depends what it is. When we first opened, we actually had metal detectors at the door. So, I mean, first and foremost, no weapons. That's kind of obvious. We got rid of the metal detector, but we haven't had any issues where people have kind of broken that policy. Yes, the main thing is looking for overconsumption and trying to identify when people are coming in that they're not already intoxicated, be it alcohol or cannabis or any other drug for that matter. We have had, especially in the summer, Atlantic City, a lot of people they'll buy a frozen drink on the boardwalk in a big souvenir cup, and they'll walk around with it and refill it all day. So we have had people try to bring in frozen drinks or regular drinks. And since we do allow non-alcoholic drinks, we brought in, it's something that you do have to kind of police. And obviously, if it's in a soda bottle and the people don't look intoxicated, it's a different story. But you can kind of tell. So the staff is all trained to take a look at that. They do have walkie-talkies so they can communicate with each other. And we've had two situations. One in the summertime where a woman came in who was at the beach, came in, consumed. She did one of those student glass gravity bongs. I think she did two of them and literally fell out of her chair. We had a grand opening.
You don't start with that. That's not a piece you start with, John. You work your way up towards that piece.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's very, very true. But so we had a similar story for our grand opening party. One of our investors was sitting at the bar, but I happened to be at the other side of it, and you could kind of see him starting to go. So I came around the bar, and he fully fell out of his chair. But that's what was happening next. And then I understand about 2 weeks ago, over the holidays, there was another similar incident where somebody was consuming. I think it was a dab rig, and same thing. Kind of blacked out.
Oh,
so
sure.
everybody's instructed as to what to do, how to deal with it. I believe an ambulance was actually called for that event, but the person was fine by the time the ambulance showed up. So, but those are the cases where you really need to go get somebody a glass of water. And I think you guys know as well as I do. With edibles, maybe a little bit less, but then again, a lot of people aren't coming to the lounge to consume edibles. You can take them anywhere. But with smoking, one way to kind of alleviate when you're too high is to eat. So it's really kind of imperative that we have, something to give people: salt, potato chips, something that will get their blood sugar stabilized, help with dehydration. So in those cases, we do arrange to have somebody run out and grab something if needed.
When you're when you're smoking, you need to be drinking. You need to be hydrating yourself. If you do get too high or you get too drunk, that's what you do. You eat some food, right? You eat
That's
some
it.
food and you balance
Take it
yourself
down.
out.
Yep.
But these guys have they've tied their hands behind their back. Like I was just sitting here thinking as you're talking, John, like I would like hire someone to sit in the parking lot and just hand out fucking free waters because you're allowed to bring it in. You just can't give it to them when they're there. And you'd be better off. It's almost a safety net is giving people water before they come in. This way they've got some water.
It's the truth. Yeah, we contemplated if we don't open a cafe, we'll likely put a food truck in the parking lot and even a food trailer, but allow people to really give them what they need and want. Because it really does deter people from coming. I mean, if you had a choice to go to a private bar for a night out where you can consume cannabis and other things, or come to our lounge, you're going to go to the bar. So,
I think it's
is.
it's another one of these unfair advantages. I mean, you guys have gone through the time, the regulation. You're the one who has the rules that are a mountain in front of you. And then they make it easier for other folks just to jump on the bandwagon. So I have an issue with that. I'm sure you do too, and you don't need to certainly don't need to go on the record with it, but I'll do it for you. Well, let's do this, John. What we're going to do is when we come back, we're going to talk about the future of cannabis lounges before we wrap things up. And I want to also, when we get back, I'm going to ask you how the parking in your parking lot works because I got a ticket last time I was there. So I'm going to ask you about that because I thought it was private. I didn't know. So anyway, we'll be back right after this.
All right.
Marijuana is huge.
So many dispensaries have resorted to a bland, impersonal shopping experience, where you often don't even get to see a sample of the cannabis you're planning on purchasing before you buy it. If you're looking for that extra personal touch, come check out High Roller Dispensary in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Our staff are avid cannabis connoisseurs who are sure to help you find the strains that fit you best. Whether you're looking for premium flower, edibles, concentrates, or tinctures, we have you covered with over 100 different strains to choose from, all of which are able to be seen, smelled, and thoroughly examined in our elegant showroom. If you're in a rush, we offer a seamless online ordering system that allows for in-depth exploration of all that we have to offer. So whether you're a novice or a seasoned stoner, be sure to stop by High Roller Dispensary and we'll make sure you're floating on Cloud 9 by the time you leave.
It's right around here, 15 inches, maybe if you're younger, you go up to 19 inches, Yeah, you already went to big age.
Sometimes a CIO might make commitments to a CEO that they just can't fulfill. And it's very hard to succeed in those environments. You really want to be able to set the expectation right up front.
How would you feel with no sex, no weed for a month or two? I'm going to be really angry.
I just feel sorry for Jake.
Yeah, Jake's going to get fucked up.
Wow, this is Phil. Yeah, for this is all you. This is the Cough Country OG pink hoodie.
Hey, I'm OG Ganja Goddess, and you're
watching Cough Country TV. Peace.
This is Chef Marvin Jane, and you're watching Cough Country TV, live from New York.
Alrighty, and we are back. Thank you guys for hanging tight during the commercials. We've got Jon Cohn. He is the CEO of High Rollers Dispensary Lounge in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I can't even get the words out.
You blending, man.
Yeah,
you blending.
I know.
Oh my!
But what we're talking about here tonight is cannabis lounges, and so one of the things that we're kind of moving into is the future. Like, where are we moving with this? So, for example, let me ask you this, John. I know that Michigan has been playing around with getting this jump started there. What do you know about what's going on in that market?
In terms of the lounge side, not a whole lot, honestly. It is one of the states that is sort of oversaturated, both with supply and retail stores. So it's probably a really good thing. I mean, in full candor, just seeing the way things are going and what people are desiring, I think it's something every state should really offer that has a program. It just makes sense. And to the point you made earlier, cities generally don't want it smoked, being consumed in public. Atlantic City, for years, people would smoke on the beach, smoke on the boardwalk, and they kind of turned a blind eye. This past year, they actually outlawed smoking cigarettes and cannabis on the boardwalk. And they issued some citations, I think about 19 of them early on. So it really, especially in a vacation site like this, where else are people going to consume? So, but Michigan itself, I don't know too much about the lounge market. You guys might know more than I do there.
I mean, from what I understand, John, they've been trying to get it started for a minute now, and so they've had a lot of regulatory things stand in the way, so they've kind of approved the concept, but I think they've had a hard time getting it started. We're going to take a look at it tonight as well. In looking at the whole lounge scene, it looks like New York is doing something a little bit different. It looks like New York is allowing consumption for anyone that actually has a retail license, and it's not separate. Do you know anything about that?
I just heard that as well. That they're a lot more progressive with it. Now, there's been lounges open in New York for quite some time. Many of them are speakeasy style. So that, and I can't remember if it was New York or Massachusetts, but one of the states just voted to allow consumption at sporting events and concerts. So very large.
Yeah, you've read our mind. Yeah, so we're doing a story. Actually, Bill's here tonight with Cough Country News, and we are doing a story about Massachusetts allowing consumption in certain public venues, like public venues.
Yeah, I think that's really innovative, and obviously people are doing it anyway, so it just kind of makes sense to make it part of the scene.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Now that's happening at the same time Massachusetts is trying to collect signatures to roll back the entire program. So you can see that you've got the cutting edge side of the world, and then you've got the peeps who are trying to.
Yeah, there are no rollbacks.
No
rollbacks are not happening.
What do you
come too far?
So what, John? Like, looking at the future, obviously there's a bit of regulation in New Jersey that maybe other states don't have, and as time goes on and as regulations loosen, there could be a better alignment from what we see between states. But what's an ideal scenario for you? So I can tell you my ideal scenario is, being able to go in, consume food, be able to consume drinks in a bar type of environment. And then, like what you said, all of these other things that you would want to do when you go out, making those things available. What are your thoughts?
I would say identical, but add to it activities, video games, pool, you mentioned earlier. There are so many things where, cannabis isn't anywhere nearly as intoxicating as alcohol that, most people who consume are going to consume and go to the beach or go to the pool or go do whatever they do anyway. So just being able to do all those activities, I kind of equate it'd be great to go into Hard Rock Casino and be able to consume and go to a table or consume and go to a show. Dinner, same thing. So, but in terms of like the lounge experience itself, I mean, I think I'd love to see it evolve into any and everything you could do at a bar or restaurant, and then meld in some of those activities. So, you know, if you're showboat and you have it into a go-kart track, you know, certainly don't want to be, you know, driving it on the highways or anything, but, you know, go-karts are go-karts. And to that point, people are doing it anyway, right? So, but I really just think it's that evolution of, you know, being able to, and, you know, the mix of food and alcohol is tough for people that want to use both. But there are a lot of situations where, you know, one friend will want to consume alcohol, the other will want to consume cannabis. And it'd be really nice to be able to do that together. Obviously, that does require a level of self-responsibility and education that's a lot higher for those that are going to do both. But I think at some point, you know, it'd be great to see a pathway for that.
You know, I think the lounges serve a great purpose, you know, for, like you said, people are going to consume anyway. They're out on the boardwalk or on the beach. But you know what? There's nothing better than having a place to sit down, have your things together instead of walking around and fumbling. You can sit down, relax in a nice environment. You have a nice apparatus, great atmosphere, and enjoy. You get a chance to enjoy yourself. You know what? You take your time, enjoy yourself, and then you can go on back out, and then come on back to the lounge again.
Yeah. Well, I was, you know, I was also thinking, like, when John was talking and you're talking about the food, I guess ideally you would want to be able to order food and then say you want it infused or not infused, right? And like if you could get it to that level, you know.
Yep.
What do you think?
No, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. I'm sure all of that, you know, may be coming.
Yeah, and then the other thing, John, too, is that, you know, at some point when you like an experience somewhere and you go in, being able to replicate that elsewhere and having less regulations. So, you know, say I like the vibe of High Roller Dispensary Lounge. There should be the opportunity for satellite locations where you can replicate that experience in other parts and allow the owners of the business to generate some economy to scale.
Agreed. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And especially, the name of the game these days is building your brand. And when you do build that type of brand, that was our vision, is we'd love to replicate it in Vegas and some of the other big cities, you know, where there's a demand for it, frankly. But to that end, it's got to be a viable business model first. And, you know, to me, the food and beverage is number one. We've got to be able to get that mixed. You know, some of the other things I was mentioning, you know, we can and do already, you know, in terms of the entertainment. You know, there's nothing stopping us from putting video games in. And one of our thoughts is once we can evolve into the food and beverage, we have a floor right below the floor that we're on now, and we are allowed to expand our lounge. So we're probably looking at doing more of a grassroots-oriented type of lounge with virtual reality, with video games, and, you know, again, things for people to come and enjoy doing while they're consuming cannabis.
Yeah,
so,
things to do.
So, what does it look like in Atlantic? What's the competition like out there yet, as far as lounges?
So there's 3 open lounges. 4 were approved in the state. 3 are open. 2 of the 3 are in Atlantic City. So it's High Rollers and Sunny Tian, and they both offer similar experiences. High Rollers is a little bit higher end experience. You know, but they're comparable. I think we definitely have higher end and more glassware. The dispensary market in Atlantic City is a different story. There's 17 of those already open in Atlantic City, with the city approved 63 stores. I think CRDA, which is the second approval level, approved 40, so over 40, all in a 25 block radius. So it's to a company that was promised there'd be 6 when we walked in the door. That's one of our biggest fumbling points at this stage of the game. So.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's a tough one to swallow. I mean, you're told 6, and how many did you say?
There's 17.
17 open right now.
Yeah,
and they gave out. There's 4 or 5 that are imminent, that are, you know, already constructed, just literally waiting for their final inspection.
I mean, so that makes life tough, man. That's something.
That's a different scene.
Yeah, and you know, and again, this is to me, I don't see any other way to explain that than greed. That's greed.
Yeah.
Is it? It's greed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when you let politicians play business people. This is what happens. They show their greed like there's no tomorrow. And and again, these people should be ashamed of themselves. Honestly, that's tough. So, so John, what else do you want to tell us that you think is important about the whole world of consumption lounges before we get out?
Yeah.
I know you can't stay for the late night show, but what do you want to kind of part with us on tonight? What should we all be thinking about? Why is it something that is a safe thing to do? Tell the audience.
Well, one of the key reasons we got into it and will continue to evolve, our program is education in cannabis. There's an awful lot of people who now it's, becoming more mainstream. People are trying it who haven't tried it before. People are starting to consume who might have consumed 20, 30 years ago. And it's very different now than it was then. Cannabis is much more potent. Strains are, there's just so many of them. People often don't know where to start. So the lounge does give you a great location or ability to educate and train simply because you can consume with somebody else who is much more advanced. And in our case, our bud tenders will do a lot of training. We're going to launch an event called Terp Tuesdays where we do terpene training on Tuesday nights. And really to attract locals and people from the local region who want to learn about cannabis and how to find what works for them. With alcohol, you don't typically go in the liquor store and buy grain alcohol because it's the most potent thing in the store. You buy what tastes good, what makes you feel good. I can tell you, if I drink gin, I'm a very angry drunk compared to vodka. So, and they're both 80 proof. Similar.
I'm glad you said. I'm glad you said that because I gave up gin years ago. I said it makes me too rammy.
See, for me, it was Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels and me did not get along. People, if I ever pulled a bottle of Jack out, people went the other way because they knew what was coming next. So,
yep. But so you really do get different effects, right, from the different types of vodka or different types of alcohol. I'm sorry. Cannabis is even more exacerbated because there's, 130 some known cannabinoids, 135 known terpenes. They all have different effects. So you can walk into a store and buy 5 different strains. They're all 20% on the label, but they all make you feel entirely different. And, that level of education, because I can tell you, the one thing that's not in the industry is if you try something and it makes you paranoid or, it makes you fall asleep when you're on your way out for the night. And some strains will do that. And it's obviously the compounds in those strains. So understanding and being able to calibrate what works is really more important even than doing the same with alcohol. And I think that's really a big area where lounges can be leveraged to advance the industry as a whole, but really provide that hospitality for the customers and that really find them what they're looking for and what they like. And the beauty of a legal market is that generally speaking, you buy Blue Dream this month and you go back and you buy the same brand 6 months from now, it should be the same. It should give you the same effect, and generally does. Whereas the illegal market, you never really knew what you were getting, and they might call it one thing and you never really knew what it was.
Pesticides.
Yeah, you don't know what's in it. You don't know any of that shit.
Yeah, exactly. So the ability to come back and be consistent with the product, I think, is really, really critical. But do you need a lounge? No, obviously, but it does help that bilateral communication with people who know more than you do.
And again, I think as a dispensary only, you can be only so much of a destination. With a lounge, you can become quite a destination. And it's really, I think you're limited by the rules, but you're also only in a way limited by the creativity because, it kind of blends into my final question is, do you think that in 5 years from now, we'll see a whole different scene in lounges?
I would say for sure. I think you'll see. Generally states learn from other states. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes one state will make a mistake, then the following one will learn from that and maybe make their own mistakes. But I think we're already starting to see more and more states support it. For Massachusetts to allow it in certain public arenas is really phenomenal, and it's a big step. I think the change to Schedule 3 is going to help a little bit, but it's still Schedule 3, so it doesn't necessarily make it legal. I don't know if that's going to do it itself, but I do think subsequent legislation down the road. Probably a lot more research done by biotechs and firms that want to create drugs and therapeutics will also help. The lack of the evidence-based medicine has also been sort of an obstacle in getting things across the line in terms of legislation. So I do definitely think they'll be more mainstream. I think you'll probably see them mixed with more and more activities. So, wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's kind of a stretch, but, go into Hershey Park and have little consumption areas. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like you're doing great things at High Rollers.
Yeah. You know what, John, you really are. I mean, I think, when we talk about the 5-year question, I think in 5 years when you see the progress, if we get the progress that we all anticipate, what we're going to do at some point is look back on people like you who were pioneers in doing it when maybe the business model didn't make the kind of sense that you would want it to make, but you've got to get there, right? There's a ramp and a road to get to that point. And I think that what we'll do when we look back is we're going to look at guys like you and thank you for laying the groundwork out for what we're hopefully about to get. So
yeah, thanks, Phil. Thank you. Yeah, it's it's a double-edged sword, but somebody's got to do it.
That's right.
But the truth is, it's something we do. We believe strongly, and that's why we're doing it.
Yep, and that's why we sit here and do what we do, because we do also believe in it strongly. Well, John, listen, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate you being on the show. We also appreciate you being a supporter of what we do. We appreciate, the canologist being at High Rollers. And so, a big thank you and an extra thank you to you because we really appreciate you and we enjoy having you on.
Listen, I'm
getting
the room.
Appreciate you guys as well.
Yeah, I'm getting the room and putting the order in.
Todd's going to pack the wife up and head down. He's going to the room.
I'm checking the calendar as soon as we get off the show.
I'll personally hand deliver it to you, so just let me know.
Right on.
All right, guys.
All right, guys. So here's what's going on, guys. We're going to be back at 10 o'clock. What's going on right now is we've got a new show on right now called The Green Room Experience. So basically, it's everything that's going on in the Green Room. It's on Kick, and it's on Twitch, and it's on Late Night Green 420, at least for tonight. There's going to be a new channel, so we'll let you know about that. But if you want to tune in to what's happening in the Green Room, do that. Also, in 15 minutes, we are going to go live with our pregame show. That will be on Kick, and that will be on Twitch, and that will be with Lindsay from the barbershop, so she can answer questions, take information from you guys, chop it up, and all of that stuff. So, guys, we will be back at 10 o'clock. Give us a like, follow, subscribe. We appreciate you, and we will see you guys back here in a few minutes. Peace.